Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of 10 for the Chairman. For those of you who haven't watched this before, this is where I take 10 questions from the subscribers and answer them to the best of my ability. The subscribers are the subset of our community that contribute money every month to enable us to do enhanced community content. So this show, Around the Verse, Jump Point, which is a 50 to 70 page and sometimes longer actually, monthly magazine that has sort of deep dives into how we build the ships, various sort of behind the scenes design stuff, how we put things together, and also has some pretty cool and interesting fiction and backgrounders on parts of the Star Citizen universe. So it's a great read if you haven't checked out Jump Point, but the subscribers allow us to sort of do the enhanced amount of community content that I think sets Star Citizen apart from a lot of other games out there and crowdfunded games as well as just regular games. So thank you very much, subscribers, and that's why I answer 10 questions every week. So speaking of people that have enabled us to make the game, I have a rather actually kind of detailed and nice letter for his real name, but he goes by Vlog, AKS Seth Darklight on our forums, who wrote a 8-page sort of design feedback suggestion stuff. So there's it's good, and it's the same as we see sort of on the forums, on our own site stuff and Reddit and stuff like that. And it's actually one of the things that's really cool about Star Citizen is just the ability to sort of read and look, and you don't necessarily agree with everything, but if there's good ideas, you sort of take it on board, and you have the opportunity to do this in a way that you never would do in traditional development because you tend to be closed, and everything sort of tends to, at some point, the team kind of can lose sight of, the forest for the trees, so to speak. So it's actually kind of good to have the sort of feedback loop we have and have it early enough in the process that can affect stuff. So we've got 2.0 coming up very soon. We have a live stream here a little later on this week, and 2.0 is going to be very close to that. Anyway, I hope you guys are enjoyed it. It's going to be a whole nother level of sort of play and interaction compared to what you've done in the past in Star Citizen and Arena Commander and ArcCorp. So I'm actually kind of pretty interested because I think there'll be a bunch of stuff that will sort of come to light, and play styles and things that people do that you can't really do in the current setup. And we put a little bit of content in there, but not really close to what's ultimately going to be in there, but I think it's a really great foundation because it's still going to be the first place where you'll sort of have everything together, sort of the vehicles flying around, but also moving around EVA, you firing, engaging in FPS, going off fighting AI or fighting other players, and then we're just going to sort of build from there. So I'm actually really curious to sort of see that because it's sort of very foundational for what we're going to do. And the whole team is, so they're all working really hard, me, myself included, which is why I'm, maybe my eyes are slightly tired today because I'm not necessarily getting as much sleep as I would if we weren't trying to get towards getting 2.0 out for you, but we're all pretty excited for that. So anyway, so just want to let you know that. So thank you, by the way, very much, Seth Darklight, for your suggestions. And I think you may have sent this. We don't really know. If it wasn't you, then whoever it was, let us know about customer service. But thank you for the Stephen Hawking novel, A Brief History of Time. That's very cool. It's 2 books in one, as you can see here on the bottom. So thanks. But now let me get to the questions. The first one comes from 127th in brackets Chaos, who asks, "Can I swap out my P-52 to a P-72 on the base model of the Constellation?" So I haven't really decided. We've sort of just finished up Germark, who's one of our internal concept artists and has done some really great stuff. So he did the Vanguard, for instance, and he did the Carrack. Has done the P-72, which we're setting up as a racer. And so we may have the ability to sort of upgrade it or buy a P-72 separate from what you get with your Constellation Phoenix. But we haven't fully decided, made the decision yet. But they're all going to be cool, and I can't wait to see the constellation flying out in space, and you have your Merlin or your Archimedes, and you can take it from your constellation and fly around and come back and dock. So that's going to be pretty cool. It won't be in 2.0, but it's hopefully going to be in 2.1. We just sort of have to finish up the final bit of the binding a vehicle to another vehicle and dealing with the local physics grid, so it makes it a bit more complicated. But when that happens, it's going to be pretty awesome, and I think that's just a whole nother level of cool gameplay stuff that people can do. Okay, next question comes from Resk, who asks, will escape pods be functional in the multi-crew ships upon release of Star Citizen Alpha 2.0? How are they intended to work? So the escape pods will not be functional in 2.0. Longer term they will, probably not for 2.1, but I would say after that. But the idea would be you should be able to, especially for the PU, you should be able to get into the escape pod, seal it up and get out of there, which is sort of your escape when the ship's going down. So the bigger multi-crew ships, when they're about to blow, I think we've sort of previewed some kind of like warning of damage, data damage states that sort of, you've got so many seconds to get out before the thing blows, and that would be either getting into your EVA suit and then trying to EVA away far enough that the explosion won't hurt you, or getting into an escape pod and escaping away, which will eject you and probably keep you more safe. So generally, if your ship's about ready to blow, in the PU especially, you would get into the escape pod, and the escape pod has a track or a tag on it, so that's sort of kind of how you would get found and respawned and go back to sort of the blast-friendly planet you're on. So that's how they're intended to work. And if you do obviously use the escape pod, then that's one of the ways to sort of save a life, so to speak, when your ship. Otherwise, if the ship blows up, then you'll have lost one of your lives, and you'll wake up in the hospital having them found your almost dead body charred and brought you back to life. So yes, use escape pods when we have them working, that is. Next question comes from Xenion, who asks, in regards to personal armor, or FPS, currently we have light, medium, heavy, and heavy armors that a player can wear, and it comes as a suit of armor. Is there any plans to allow us to mix and match armor types? If so, how is the overall protection value determined, or is protection based on hit location and armor protecting that particular location? So for the initial 2.0 and Star Marine, we just have the light, medium, and heavy, which are full suits of armor, but that is temporary. The actual long-term plan, we're actually in the process of sort of concepting it, is to have the armors be very much pieces. So almost like, the medium armor is like heavier pieces of armor you put on the same base suit, and the heavy would go one step beyond that. So you could mix and match between, say, breastplates or shoulder guards or armor padding on the legs, and that absolutely would be based on sort of physical hit location and the sort of density and strength of the material you're hitting there. That will come with the physically based weapon and damage stuff that we will be working on. It's not going to be in 2.0. It will come when we bring our sort of newer refactored items to the table, which is likely to be probably 2.2, I would think. Because 2.1's going to be fairly close after 2.0, so we may not have time to get in because it's a pretty big refactor, but I think that'll just sort of give a lot more sort of flexibility and fidelity, and should be pretty cool when we actually get proper physical damage and sort of physical characteristics for sort of the projectiles. There you go. Okay, next question comes from Draconis, who asks, have you seen any signs that anyone in the gaming industry is taking to heart the points you made during your presentation at GDC? If so, could you provide an example? Okay, I'm just trying to think presentation at the Game Developers Conference, because I don't think I've made a presentation at the Game Developers Conference since I did one at the sort of GDC Online that was here in LA quite a while ago, but I haven't really done one at GDC. Maybe I did one, like as a Gamescom, not this year, the year before, I did one, I guess that's a European GDC. So I'm not sure whether, we definitely are doing I think I've made my points fairly consistently about what we try to do, engaging the community, sharing the work we're doing, and by doing that and also having the ability to iterate and make things better because you have a community involved and giving you feedback on a level that you wouldn't have with a sort of internal development team or internal testing. I definitely see people out there that are sort of taking to heart the more community-driven development process. We're not the only ones to do that, by the way. I mean, there's people that have been community-driven in the past as well. But I certainly think the fact that we've managed to mount a project this ambitious with support of everyone out there has opened a lot of eyes because it's a totally different way. Before people sort of dismissed crowdfunding and doing things the open way as being sort of a small niche thing to do, but we're not small and niche. We're competing with the biggest projects out there, and it's all because of you guys, and that's pretty good. So I definitely see that when I talk to people in the industry on the gaming side, there's a lot of people that have paid attention to that and understand the power of it. And like I said, I don't think we're the only people that have ever done that. It's not unique to us. I just think that we've sort of really committed it wholeheartedly, and that's helped out. So I do think that in some ways we are helping sort of change things slowly. Crowdfunding definitely has done that as well. There you go. I mean, it's kind of hard to say, giving an example. I mean, you can kind of see some other crowdfunding campaigns, and they do sort of follow a lot of the processes we sort of started. I definitely know that even in the case of Shroud of the Avatar quite a while ago, I was telling Richard, hey, you should go and crowdfund, and then when they were starting it, both Richard and Dallas, we had some chats, and I'm like, yeah, this is kind of what worked for us, and they've been doing an amazing job themselves. I'm like always impressed by how consistent they are, how they're constantly pushing out new content, how they're engaging their community. They're doing a great job, and to be honest with you, there's a lot of other sort of crowdfunding campaigns that are doing a good job of that too. We've shouted out a few and backed a few, and I think you'll also see longer term, even publishers sort of embrace the model of engaging your community early, giving them access, giving them an opportunity to comment and feedback, and make them feel like they're involved in the process. All right, next question comes from Leonhard Sepala, sounds like a Finnish name, who asks, how will landing on Crusader in Alpha 2.0 release compare to what we saw in CitizenCon in 2014? And how close will you be to your final vision for planet landing sequences? Well, CitizenCon 2014, we showed landing in ArcCorp, and we're not going to be landing in ArcCorp in 2.0. So we don't have planetary landings. We have landings on various space stations. I think we have 3 main space stations, and I think there's 6 or 7 sort of communication satellites that are sort of scattered around the Crusader gas giant. So we're not going to have the planetary landings this year. It will be next year, it will definitely be like we saw in the CitizenCon 2014, but probably much better. So we've got some pretty cool stuff that we're working on. Not ready to show it yet, but I think people are going to be very pleasantly surprised when they see what we're working on, because it's anyway. We'll be doing something that I didn't think we'll be able to do for quite a while. So I'm quite happy with that. But again, like I said, we'll wait to show you that. We've got a bunch of stuff to do first. I think there will be more free-form from space down to planets than we were originally saying. So, and it will all stream and be pretty cool. So there's a bunch of tech that's sort of coming together towards this year to the end and the very beginning of next year that will enable that, and we'll be showing it to you guys sometime early next year, and hopefully you'll like it. The next question comes from Moo Kids, who asks, in multi-crew ships, will the ships be capable of performing extreme maneuvers that can cause blackout redout? If so, would that mean that people on board not strapped in would be prone to be thrown around the interior of the ship, as the G-force needed to cause a blackout redout be too much for an unrestrained document to stand still. So longer term in the multi-cruise ships, I would like you to be able to do more violent maneuvers, and in the violent maneuvers, if you're not strapped into a seat, you'll kind of get thrown around a little bit, just like if you're on a ship or an airplane and had a violent maneuver, you would get thrown around. That will not be implemented in 2.0. It's actually not particularly that difficult to implement. It's just we've got so many things to do that there's a lot of things that are priority above that. So we'd like to do that. I'm not sure that we'll ever be able to have a multi-cruise sort of pull the kind of extreme G-forces that sort of a high-performance fighter could. I mean, it's going to be very similar to the way that, say, a passenger jet airliner would be compared to, say, an F-16. So an F-16 obviously can pull, is built for much more aggressive maneuvers than, say, a passenger jetliner. But you certainly will be you should be able to maneuver your multi-cruise ship fairly violently and throw people around ultimately. Like I said, won't be for 2.0, but that is absolutely going to be part of the goal. So that'd be a reason to strap in combat and do other stuff like that. And if you have loose boxes, they would get moved around and stuff like that. So coming, but not in 2.0. The next question comes from Crash with a K, who asks, if I purchase components, missiles, a shield generator, weapons, etc., will they remain in my inventory when the PU goes live, or are these purchases just to support the continuing efforts to create the best damn space sim ever and will be deleted when we go live? Okay, so if you actually purchase the components using UEC, which we've given you by default with your account, and occasionally we give additional ones, and you can also buy some UEC. Those will all be permanent and will carry across into the PU. Anything that you would purchase with sort of a temporary currency, so we're debating doing a temporary currency for sort of the baby PU that we're working on now to allow you to sort of earn some money, that would obviously be wiped. And obviously REC, which is the rental equipment credit stuff, which we may also carry across into sort of Crusader, the baby PU, is obviously temporary. It rents for a period of time. That's kind of the thing. So if you, essentially if you've bought some stuff with hard cash, then yes, you have it in the baby PU, and you would have it all the way, once the proper game works. Because that wouldn't be very fair if we didn't let you do that. I will say that it doesn't mean that some of the items or components may not get balanced, because obviously, as you've seen, as we put stuff out there, occasionally stuff needs to be retuned or rebalanced based on new features that come in a gameplay, or maybe we've just sort of made a weapon or a component too powerful and we need to sort of adjust it. But if you bought it, you'll be able to get it, and obviously once we get UEC working properly in the game, you'll also be able to sort of earn items and then sell them back to get credits back and to buy other stuff inside the game system. Next question comes from Dredder, who asks, are there any changes being made to the startup sequence for large multi-cruise ships? I've noticed in the 2.0 demo that within a few seconds of the pilot taking the controls, the ship was airborne and flying off. Well, I mean, you'll get into the ship, you'll sort of turn it on, and you'll get the HUD boot up, and then after the thrusters are spooled up, you should be able to fly it. Longer term, we're actually working on stuff that will be a bit more involved. So, kind of having sort of an interactable cockpit where you can not just have the screens you interact with, but also turn switches off and on. So some more old school ships, you may have to click stuff off and on, and some more modern ones maybe just touch screens or holograms. But we kind of will probably make some of that more involved later on. So there's some new stuff that's coming with our usability and item refactor that will allow us to sort of look around the cockpit. And I think you've seen a preview of what we're doing with the interactive screens, but that will all extend to also like, oh, look, here's a switch, I can turn a switch, or so interact with buttons and everything in your cockpit. So you get in, turn your power plant on, turn your HUD on, and those kind of things. So that we will probably add some of that. We don't want to go too crazy on it because we also want to make this game accessible. So we're already fairly, it's. I know some people think that we're a very simple game, but if you compare us to, say, even the past Wing Commanders I've done in the privateers we've got a lot more knobs and dials that you turn, and modes you switch between. I mean, just moving to the new flight modes, that's already 4 flight modes that in the old Wing Commander was just 1 flight mode. So we're adding this extra complexity for when you get into the game, you can really sort of get the most out of it, but we also need the kind of basic, I get in my basic starter ship, it's just on automatic, I don't need to tweak anything, and I can just easily fly and take off. And then as you get more into it and you want to sort of get like slightly better performance or more control, then you would sort of go into a more manual state. So that's kind of like the analogy between having a car that's an automatic and a car that's a manual. But right now, I think our startup sequences will be relatively short to allow you to get into the action, but longer term, we may make it more involved for the bigger ships and all the rest stuff to make it generally cool. Okay, next question comes from Saber. Saber, by the way, spelled the American way, who asks, will there be voice commands to act as shortcuts? So if you want to change your shield parameters, you can say shields as a voice and it will direct you to the shield options. So right now, I know our community has been pretty active. There's been a bunch of really cool voice attack profiles that have been put together by people. So you can kind of do that sort of on a community side where people have been sharing their profiles and the setup for that. Longer term, that is absolutely on our audio roadmap. So it's one of the things that I will have on the audio roadmap is sort of basically building in voice commands to the game itself. I mean, it's pretty appropriate. We're a sci-fi game. You already have voice recognition engine on Windows, which is pretty good, which is what Voice Attack uses. So it is one of the things that the audio department have on their long-term roadmap to implement, but of course we've got quite a few other things like the sort of VoIP and sort of the situational kind of voice that people could do, whether they're behind you or talking to you over a helmet and stuff like that. But long-term, yes, that's the plan. Short-term, right now, you can do this just by sort of setting up Voice Attack and getting some of the profiles set up by the community. All right, last question comes from Sensi, who asks, my org is in the process of choosing a home planet. We have an in-law history and would like to settle on a planet like Yar or Hyperion. Could you tell us how you envision the PE release regarding star systems availability? Will all star systems be available at the end of the beta or after a gradual provisioning? So it's actually too early to sort of make a call on which planets will allow players to start on. We are going to have a selection of planets that people could start on when they start the game, so we don't sort of have player crowding in just one location. We haven't made a decision of how many they will be and where they will be located, but it probably wouldn't be all the places we have. It probably would be sort of kind of the bigger or the more likely candidates in UEE space. But whether it's we give an option of 4 starting locations as 10 starting locations, we haven't determined that yet. That will sort of kind of iteratively be decided as we sort of grow the universe. Right now, obviously, just one starting location is in Stanton, but obviously that's going to change as we add more places and content to places. So it's too early to say. We will give you a choice, and maybe it will be related to some of the preferences you want to do, like whether if you're more keen in being an outlaw or you want more PvP. Then you probably don't want to be in the heart of UEE space. So things like that will also factor into. But as I said, it's early days yet, so we haven't fully decided what that's going to be. There will be multiple choices. Don't know quite how many of them, and whether we'll sort of have some small amount at the beginning and then roll out larger options as we go along, which I would suspect would probably be the route we take. So there you go. There's the 10 questions from subscribers for this week. I'll be seeing you a little later on Thursday for the live stream. And I just would like to thank everyone out there, especially subscribers, for contributing money every month to allow us to do this kind of content. To the community as a large for backing us and enabling us to make the game of my dreams and the team's dreams, and I think your guys' dreams. It's pretty unprecedented that we're building a game of this scope and scale. The amount of money we've raised is pretty mind-boggling, but it's as I said quite a while ago, everything that we raise goes back into the game, and that's kind of unique. Most people when they make lots of money, they take it off as profits, but as far as I'm concerned, it's just allowing us to build a much bigger, richer universe, and so I thank you all for that, and I'm going to continue that commitment and pledge until we've got the game to the state that it's done, and then hopefully we'll just earn enough money to maintain the world and add more content to it. But you know, it's great. It's a lot of work, but I'm really excited to see it come together. More and more elements are sort of dropping in, and I think that the level of fidelity combined with sort of the scope and goal and ambition of it is really what's going to set it apart. So, you know, starting with 2.0, you're going to start to sort of feel a bit of that, and then going into next year, you'll definitely be feeling and seeing a lot more of that. So thank you all, and well, I'll see you on Thursday. Bye. Hey guys, thanks for watching 10 for the Chairman. If you guys would like to see more episodes, go here. If you guys would like to subscribe to our YouTube channel and always keep up to date with all our video content, go here. And if you guys would like to watch episodes around the verse, go here please. And I will see you in the verse.
This video made possible by the ICC Stellar Surveyors and subscribers like you.